Hello, in this math video, I will do a GED video regarding using slope. So in the previous video, you had a little introduction of slope, right? Slope is rise over run. In this video, we're going to go a little bit more in depth. We're going to go over the different forms of a linear line, such as slope-intercept form, point slope form, and briefly talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so go ahead and get out your notebook. We're going to write out some very important notes. So, uh, the first one I want to briefly talk about is slope. So you have an introduction to slope. Basically, it's a measure of the steepness of a line. So you've probably seen it as rise of a run, and you've also seen it as m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? Okay. Okay. A new one a new equation that you haven't seen is called slope intercept form. Slope intercept form. So basically, this is a linear line, and there's different forms of a linear line. There's slope intercept form, there's point slope form, there's standard form, but slope intercept form is probably the most common one. You've probably seen it before. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we're definitely going to use this. The third, another form of a linear line is called point slope form, which is this, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so another thing you need to know about is parallel lines. So how do you know if two linear lines are parallel? Um, First off, they never intersect. So you could say two or more lines. But also, really important, they must have the same slope. That's how you know these two linear lines, two linear lines are parallel. So yeah, see, here's line one, here's line two. They will never intersect, they will never have a section, and their slopes are the same. So if you know the slope of the other one, the other slope must be the same. Okay, I gotta do five perpendicular line. So go ahead and pause if you need to, because I got it clear. I'm running out of space. So yeah, perpendicular lines. So so how do you know? So perpendicular lines are when it makes that little box symbol. That's how you know it's perpendicular. If it has that little box symbol, that's how you know it's perpendicular, or unless it says so. So how do you know if two linear lines are perpendicular? So two lines that intersect at a 90-degree forms right angles. Right. And this is also important. This is how you really know it's perpendicular. And if you multiply and the product of their slope is -1. So that's very important. So if you know that if you multiply out the two slopes, M1 times M2, and if it gives you a product of -1, that's how you know it is perpendicular. Or you could think of it as M2 is the negative reciprocal. That's another way. Uh, that's another way, Uh, okay, so we went over slope, the different forms of a linear equation, such as slope-intercept form and point-slope form. And we talked about parallel lines, meaning their slopes are the same. And then we also talked about perpendicular lines is when you multiply the two slopes, it should give you a product of -1. Okay, so that was a lot to go over. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead. Let's do, I believe there's like 6 questions. So I'm going to clear and I'm going to do the first one. So question one says, find the slope and the point through which the equation, find the slope and the point through which the equation y plus 4 equals 2 parentheses x minus 5. So, yeah, so what we're trying to do is there's two ways you could do this. If you analyze this very carefully, do you know what form that is? That is in point slope form, right? So if you look back to your notes, this is point slope form. And what is a point slope form is basically this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay. Now, if you look at it very carefully, if you compare this with this, it gives you all the answer. It gives you everything you need. It gives us the slope, which we want, and the random point. So what do you think my slope is if you compare this with this? Yes, the m, the slope, is the num is 2. If you compare, see, here's m, and then this is 2. So my slope is 2. Now, what about the random point? The random point is the subscript. So it's y minus y1. So our point is going to be uh, x minus x. So a point is a x comma y coordinate, right? So what is my random x coordinate? It is this one. Now, be careful. There is a minus. That doesn't mean, wait. Okay, actually, I did that wrong. So the slope is right. The random point. Um, this is how you would do it. I guess what you could do is you could test each one, right? Or if you want, you could have also put it in y equals mx plus b. It's whatever makes it easier for you. So if you do it this way, let's do it this way. I don't know why. It's just so yeah, slope is still 2 because our m is 2. But if you want to put it in y equals mx plus b, you do got to do a little bit of algebra. So if I over here, I would basically solve for y. So if um uh FOIL out this too. So it's going to be, so let me, y plus 4 equals, but also I got to ask you, look at at the random point, what do they all have in common? The x coordinate is 0, and then the y coordinate is a number. What do we know from the previous video what that is? If your x coordinate is 0 and your y number is a non-zero number, what is that considered? A y-intercept. It's also your b value in the y equals mx plus b. So I think it's wise to put it in this form because once we know our b is, that's our y-intercept, and then we can write that as easily as a coordinate, right? So let's do that. So over here, I'm going to FOIL out this 2. So that's going to be 2x. And then 2 times -5 is -10. And then I'm going to get y by itself by subtracting 4 sides. So I get y equals 2x. And then -10 minus 4 is -14. Okay. So as you can see, our slope is still 2 because it's the number in front of x. And my b is now -14. So what did we say b was? It's a y-intercept. So how do I write this as a coordinate? That's right. You could write it as 0, comma -14 because the x value is always 0, and then your y value is the b. So the correct answer will be letter B, right? It has a slope. Whoops, not letter B. Letter C, sorry, right? Because it has a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 0, comma -14. That's the one. So it's letter C. Okay, let's move on to question 2. So question 2 says, given the point -3, comma 7, and the equation of line y minus 5 equals 3 parentheses x plus 2, find the slope using point slope form. So what is point slope form? Yeah, it's this form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, I know the direction says point slope form, but you could also easily use slope intercept form, right? But let's see if this is easier. So how do we find the slope? So I think it tells you everything we need. Let's see. And the equation of line is y minus 5 equals 3, comma x plus 2. Yeah, I think what I would do is just given the point -3, comma 7 in the equation y minus 5 equals 3, find the slope using the point slope form. I mean, I just looked at it. It looks like, oh, I see. I don't think we'll have to, I think we're gonna have to use the M formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so we're going to use this formula too. And I think we don't have to, I really don't think I think we will use this, but it's not going to be here. I'll show you. So do we have 2 points? We have 1 point, which is -3, comma 7, right? Do we have another point? Not yet. But actually I do. It's hidden in this form, in this equation. I know that is really sneaky of them. So it's y minus 5 equals 3 parentheses x plus 2. So based on this equation, what is the coordinate? So my x coordinate is this one. So it's going to be no, so it's going to be a minus, and I think I have to use a -2 because this is the only way it's going to get positive 2, right? And then what is my y coordinate? So it's going to be this number 5. Don't worry about this minus because that's part of the equation, so it's going to be positive 5. Okay. So now we have our two coordinates, and then I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope is going to be, if you put in that formula, it's 5 minus 7, and then it's 2 minus 3. So on the top, what's 5 minus 7? Negative 2. And then on the bottom, what's 2 minuses becomes a positive, so that's 5. Hmm. Find the slope using the point slope form. Why isn't it giving our answer? I have 5 minus 2 is negative 7, and then 2 minus a minus 3. That's 5. I don't see our answer. Let me think. This one's tricky. Given the point negative 3 comma 7, and then they give us the equation y minus 5 equals 3 parentheses x plus 2, right? It says find the slope using point slope form. I mean, just looking at this is 3, but find the slope using. Should I think I should plug this point in. So I'm going to replace y with 7, and then my x. That doesn't help. Hmm, I'm actually stuck on this one. Let me see. What if what if I solve for y, meaning I put in the form y equals mx plus b. So this would be 3x, this would be 6, this would be y minus 5, add 5, add 5, y equals 3x, and then 6 plus 5 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And oh, I know. Okay. So it's this equation because this is the same thing as this. What I need this, remember this 11 is a b. It's a minor sub, so that could be 0 comma 11. Okay. Then I think we could use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so my 2 points are going to be negative 3 comma 7, and then this point here would be 0 comma 11. Let's see if we get any of these choices. So this is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 is 11 minus my y1 is 7, my x2 is 0, and then minus my x1 is negative 3. So what is 11 minus 7? 4. And then over here, two negatives becomes a positives. Still don't get my answer. Hold on. Why is it one step? Like a trick question or something, given Okay, so oh my God, this is weird. I don't see my answer. I put this in. I put it in the little chat GPT and it says the slope is 3, but I don't see my choice. 1 minus 5. Mm. Find the slope using point slope. So, okay, I'm gonna skip it. I think I'll get that wrong because I really don't know how they got uh it says 3, but I don't see my choice. So I'm gonna just skip it. Okay, let's try question 3. So question 3 says find the slope intercept equation of a line with a slope of -1/2 and a point at -2, 7. Okay, this one looks doable. So they want it in the form of a slope intercept form. So what is the slope intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. And they give you a lot, they give you almost everything. They give us the slope, which is -1/2. And they give us a random point of -2, 7. But unfortunately, that doesn't give us our b. So what we're going to do is plug in the slope out. So let's replace our m with -1/2. I don't know what my b is. And then I'm going to plug in this random point in order to solve for b. So I'm going to replace x with -2 and replace y with 7. Okay. So go ahead and do that. Replace y with 7. Replace x with -2 plus b. So I get 7 equals, what is -1/2 times -2? Well, two negatives becomes a positive. So that's going to be 1 plus b, right? Two negatives becomes a positive. So -1/2 times -2 over 1. -1 times -2 is +2. 2 times 1 is 2, which is 1. And then subtract 1 from both sides, and you get b equals 6. Okay, so my equation is going to be y equals -1/2 x, and then my b is 6. So that's it. One equation. So it is going to be d, y equals -1/2 x plus 6. Okay, that was pretty uh straightforward. So let's move on. Question 4. Which of the following lines is perpendicular to the line 3y plus 5x equals 15? So, okay, so you don't see that this is actually a standard form. Uh, 3y plus 5x equals to 15 is in standard form. So it's like an ax plus by equals c. What we want to do is get it in slope intercept form. We want to get it in y equals mx plus b form, right? Because if we put it in this form, we could easily find the slope and we can find this new slope that's perpendicular. So let's go ahead and try to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract that. So you get 3y equals -5x plus 15. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So I get y equals -5/3 is -5 third x. And then 15 divided by 3 is 5. And really, I don't really care about this 15/3 or 5 because that's your b, your y-intercept. It's not related to our slope. So what is the slope of this line right here? So we'll call that m1. What is the slope of this line? -5 thirds. right? The slope is the number in front of the x, so it's negative 5/3. Now, what do you think the new slope should be in order for it to be perpendicular? So remember the rule? The rule states two lines m1 times m2 gives you a product of -1, or you can think of m2 is the negative reciprocal of m1. Okay, so what is the negative reciprocal of -5/3? So the negative, so it's going to be positive, and then flip the reciprocal of 5/3 is 3/5. Okay. And then if you're not sure what happened, or if you want to check it, just multiply -5/3 times 3/5, and you do get a product of -1. Okay. So my new slope is going to be y equals 3/5 x plus b. Now I don't really care about my b. Which one of these gives you a slope of 3/5? Is it A? No. Is it B? Yes. Is it C? Is it D? No. It's this one. Now, you don't really have to find B because as long as the slope is giving you 3/5. Now, if they give you two choices that has a slope of 3/5, then you might have to plug in a random point. But I don't think they don't give us a random point, so I think we're fine with this. So yeah. So don't be scared. Like if you see this +4, that's just more information. They're just trying to trick you. This is the one because it has a slope of 3/5. Question 5. Consider the lines 2x minus 3y plus 5 equals 0 and 4x minus 6y plus 10 equals 0. Which is the following word this describes the relation between these two lines. So they want to know if these are linear lines, right? They want to know if they intersect, perpendicular, parallel, or adjacent. Adjacent. Now, if they're parallel, they will never intersect. So if you know that these two lines are parallel, you can forget about intersection, right? So what we would do is get y by itself or put it in the form, put both forms in y equals mx plus b. Because if you're at this point, you could figure out the slope, right? So let's do that. Let's start with the first one, 2x minus 3y plus 5 equals to 0. Let's get y by itself. So what I would do first is maybe subtract 2x from both sides. So this is going to be -3y equals to -2x plus 5. And then I would get rid of this -3 by dividing everything by -3, right? I get y equals, what's -2 divided by -3? 2/3. What's 5 divided by -3? -5/3. So I don't really care about this -5/3 because that's your b. I care about the slope or the 2/3. So my m1 or the slope for this line is positive 2/3. Okay, I'm gonna box it. That's not our answer. Now let's look at the second linear line, this one. Get y by itself, so maybe I could subtract 4x from both sides first. So you get -6y plus 10 equals -4x. And then maybe I would like subtract 10 from both sides. So you get -6y equals to -4x minus 10. And then I would divide everything by -6. So you get y equals, and then over here, two negatives become the positive, so that's 4, 6, which can be reduced by 2. So that would be 2 And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then I don't really care about this negative 10 over 6 because that's my b. I need my slope. So what is the slope of this line? I'll call it m2, which is 2/3. Okay, so okay, so now we have our two slopes. M1 is 2/3 and M2 is 2/3. What can you conclude? They're the same, right? M1 equals to M2. And what does that mean when their slopes are the same? They are parallel. So they will never intersect. So you could forget about A. You could forget about B because they're not perpendicular, and you can forget about D. Okay, so A to C. Last one. Question 6 says, what is the equation of a line passing through the point -4/5 and perpendicular to the line defined by x plus 6y plus 7? Okay. Oh, and so there's a lot of this going on. They want to know what is the equation, and if you look at all the equation, look at all choices, it's in the form of y equals mx plus b, right? So what we need is we got to put in this form, we need to find the slope and we need to find the b. Unfortunately, we don't have neither. They only give us this x plus 6y equals to 7. And what I would do is that doesn't help me find my slope, right? So I'm going to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract x and you get, so this cancels, 6y equals to negative x plus 7. And then I'm going to get rid of this 6 by dividing everything by 6. So I get y equals negative x over 6 is the same thing as negative 1/6 x, and then plus 7/6. Okay, now, so what is the slope of this line? M equals, or M1 equals to negative 1/6. What do you think my M2 is going to be? So they want to know our slope has to be perpendicular to this line. So what should this slope be in order for it to be perpendicular? The negative reciprocal of negative 1/6. So what is that going to be? It's going to be positive 6 or 6 over 1, right? So our equation is going to be y equals 6x plus b. Now, do they give us a y-intercept? No. They only give us a random point of -4/5. So this is why you're going to plug in this point in order to solve for b, and you got your answer. So I'm going to replace my y with 5, replace my x with -4 plus b. So I get 5 equals, what's 6 times -4? -24 plus b. And then solve for b by adding 24 to both sides. So b equals, what's 24 plus 5? 29. So my final equation is going to be y equals 6x plus 29. Yep, so it's D. So there was a lot we had to do for this one. So I had to find my slope and that's perpendicular to this linear line. So what I did was I used this equation, x plus 6y equals 7, and then I got y by itself. And I figured out that my slope is -1/6, right? That's of our new line. It's perpendicular to this. So what is the negative reciprocal of -1/6? Yes, positive 6. So my slope is 6. I mean, you didn't even have to find B because if you look at all the choices, which of these gives you the slope of 6? D, right? So you didn't have to waste your time to solve for B, and you don't really have like you have a time limit. So if you don't have to do more work than you have to, just don't do it, right? So I know it's automatically D because my slope is 6. Now, if you wanted to find B, you would pick, you would plug in this random point, solve for B, and I got B equals 29. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, I want to know, I am so curious, what did they get on that one I didn't understand? So let me check my answer. Okay. So we did got, I'm curious, that's the only one we got wrong. So I'm curious how do they get this? So you got the first one right. It's the second one that's wrong. So let's see what they get. So the question two says, given the point negative 3 comma 7 in the equation y minus 5 equals 3, find the slope using the point slope rule. Okay, so they did. Oh, it's so much easier than it. Okay, so I think I kind of did it right, but I got confused. So what they did was they use they all only want the slope. So they use this equation y minus 5 equals 3 parentheses x plus 2, right? Oh, I see. Uh, I should have, yeah, so yes. So what I did was what I did wrong is I replaced my slope with 3 because I thought, no, our slope is not 3. We don't know what it is, so we should have just called it m. Okay. So you see what I did? I used this equation, y minus 5 equals, the only thing I did was replace this 3 with m because that can't be our slope, right? If you look at our choices, none of that's true, right? So that's the mistake I did. And then what they did was they found this m by plugging in this random point. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Negative 3 is your x, 7 is your y. So replace y with 7, so it's 7 minus 5. I don't know what m is, and I'm going to replace my x with negative 3. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. 7 minus 5 is positive 2. Is that right? Okay, so yeah. So what's m times negative 1? It's really negative 1m, and then this is equal to 2. And then you want to solve for m, so you got to get rid of this invisible negative 1 by dividing both sides by negative 1. So I get m equals to negative 2. Okay, so that's where I went wrong. Okay, now we know. Yeah, this was a little bit more difficult section, but we got it. Okay, so I am going to stop here.